Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. But this is a heavy image that I'm showing you right here. And what I'm going to show you is how the true Israelites look, according to the Bible, not according to the modern day artists and the iconoclasm and the Renaissance artwork. And you gotta have some nuts on you to know that the people of the Bible are so-called black people and yet paint them as so-called white people. You got to have some nuts on you because the proof is overwhelming, and I'm going to show you some of that proof, and they're going to show you that this devil is really a devil, devils in a plural sense. So I'm gonna get in. Look at this right here. So us growing up as a child in this place, this is what we were shown as the Messiah, right? But how's did that play in your subconscious mind? That's why Jake, the so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans that get a little knowledge, they perceive the Bible to be a so-called white man book. Why? Because these images. It says, what's the color of your God, supreme being in your subconscious mind? That's heavy. The subconscious mind. So I'm going to show you something. And this is what most people see. We were shown this as kids, and now this is what most of Americans, grown-ups, among our people, that's who they see. They still see this imagery in their mind. And that's why they use that J name, because this comes up in their mind. I'm going to take you here. So when you go up to, you go look up any kind of historical evidence when it's pertaining to the Israelites, they all have been whitewashed, all the images. What does that mean when I say whitewash? This is what I'm talking about. So what I did is I put in Google, the Israelites. And this is all the imagery that's in the people's minds is all so-called white images, which these would be Edomites. And this was a calculated move to indoctrinate you and put the propaganda in your mind. See? This is all nothing but modern day witchcraft. So let me show you something. This psyops that they do on your mind. Going back into this imagery right here. These psyops. What's a psyop? What's a psychological operation? Let's go in that definition. It says psychological warfare. That's psyop. It says a psychological warfare is planned, non-combat use of propaganda. This is propaganda right here. Propaganda. Let me show you the other image. This propaganda, and it goes on and on. It's everywhere you look. It's all the TV shows. Even even the kids right now being indoctrinated by these images. In the movies, the media, the books, you name it, right? Go back here. And I'm going to show you in the Bible how the true Israelites looked and how they look today. They're going to be scattered among all nations. They're going to come looking different kind of ways because the mingling with the other nations. But the bulk of them are so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans, as you know today. Yet you're going to have Israelites looking like all ethnicities because of the mingling. So psychological warfare. Psy-war is the planned non-combat use of propaganda. It says fear. It says and misinformation to manipulate emotions, attitudes, and behaviors of opponents. It says aiming to demoralize, confuse, right? And force surrender without physical destruction. So this is all psychological war right here. When you see these images, when you see the movie like the Ten Commandments, right? They play every pagan Easter, these psychological warfare. They don't have to fire no guns off with this. They don't have to drop no bombs. It's done in the mind. And it's very effective. So let me show you something. So how did true Israelites look? According to the Bible. So I'm going to go to Lamentations 4 and 8. I'm going to break it down from there. So let me let this load up. So we're going to go to the real description of the Israelites according to the Bible, not according to the Renaissance artwork. So let's go to Lamentations 4 and 8. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a backdrop so you can understand what's going on here. So you can understand, like, I'm going to give you an AI overview. 1 second. It says Lamentations 4 and 8 right here at the very top. It says describes the extreme physical degradation of Jerusalem inhabitants during the Babylonian siege. It says emphasizing the severe consequences of sin. It says their skin is blacker than soot and shriveled up upon their bones. It says, matter of fact, so you can get right here. It says physical devastation, blacker than soot. The phrase denotes a complexion. Yeah, so they was very dark skinned, like the color black. You know what I'm saying? So let's go here. Let's go to the scripture. Let's pull it. So Lamentations 4 and 8. And remember, this is describing the house of Judah, which would be Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Lamentations 4 and 8. So this is the real appearance of the so-called Jews, which I hate that word Jew because that's new speak. That's a hijack from Israelites. It says their visage is blacker than coal. We're going to go to this word visage. They're not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered. It is become like a stick. So they was very malnutrition and very dark skinned because they was dark people. Let's go to this word visage. And I'm going to go to another version so you can really see it. So visage. And I'm going to the Strong's H8389 at the top. So this is describing the house of Judah, the so-called Jews, the Israelites from the kingdom of Judah, Yahweh. It says visage, getting straight to the point. It says appearance. It says appearance, countenance. So their appearance in their face was very dark-skinned because these were so-called black people, and they still is today. Even though we have been mixed and mingled among all the other ethnicities, the bulk of the Israelites going to be so-called black people today. It's just what it is. It says appearance, resemblance. And what these devils will do, so I'm going to show you what they do. I'm going to show you a technique they do to try to use the psychological warfare on you. So let's go here. I'm going to go here real quick. It says right here, Lamentations 4 and 8 describes the extreme physical suffering and starvation of the people during the siege of Jerusalem or Yerushalayim. It portrays them as unrecognizable, with their skin shriveled, blackened by hunger and grief. So what they like to do is say this black is talking about metaphorically, right? So I'm going to show you that's a lie. But they'll say figuratively. You want one and the same, right? I'm going to show you something. So when you go to this word blacker, they visage, which goes back into their face, their appearance is blacker than coal, very dark-skinned people. When you go to this word blacker, it goes, it can mean different things, right? So this is what it means. It says to be dark, to be darkened. And what these devils will do, even when you go here and show all, when you go into the Strong's H2821, it actually will break down the how can I say it, the applications of the word, what it's talking about, what scriptures it actually applies to and what it means in these different contexts. So if you go here, it says number 1, to grow dark. It says Isaiah 5 and 30. It says compare figurative to Job 18 and 6. Isaiah 13 and 10, figurative. So it actually says figurative when it's actually talking about some figurative. All right. So when you go to Lamentations 4 and 8, right here, number 2, it says to have dark color. Lamentations 4 and 8 at the very top. Darkened in the blackness, in their visage, right? So they go to show you this ain't talking about anything figurative or metaphoric when they say black, because they try to associate black in this context as being figurative, like, you know, like despair and stuff like that. No, this black was they dark skin, right? Because it would have said figurative. So that's a cut on that. So I'm gonna go back here and show you something else. Show you some historical stuff. So this book right here, I went into this book before. If you want to go pick it up, your brothers and your sisters, it's called the HarperCollins Bible Dictionary. And matter of fact, let me get it real quick. And when you go to page, what page is this? So I'll get go to it real quick. And when you go to page, it's 616. Actually, it'll be the next page, like 617. Right? But it's not marked. It doesn't say 617, but it'd be 616, the page after. So in this book, if you look at the bottom, matter of fact, let me just read it from my book. Can't really see that too good. In this page, in this book, Salakia, I'm going to read this part right here at the bottom. To the bottom, when it says number 1, it says, in 701 BC, Assyrian king Sennacherib conquered most of Judah, including the fortress city of Lachish, or Lachish. So that's the context that's going on here. And how did they look? Let's go to this picture, zoomed in. Right here, these are so-called black people. Showing you that we're not making anything up. These are the true so-called Jews. This is the house of Judah, Yehoiada, Benjamin and Levi. Was called the kingdom, southern kingdom, which is the house of Judah, the kingdom of Judah. Right? Because those other tribes mingle in with the so-called Jews, which would be the house of Judah, Yehoiada. And they was all called so-called Jews. So you see that. That's from this book. And remember, right here, matter of fact, I can zoom in. It says in 701 BC, Assyrian king Sennacherib conquered most of Judah, including the fortress of Lachish. It says this victory was recorded in remarkable detail on bas reliefs at his Nineveh palace. This scene is a passionate testimony to the plight of his victims, who were departed with only what they could carry on their backs. That's what you see in here, in this imagery right here. They actually got bags on their backs, like this is saying, to let you know that it is talking about this image. They got sacks over their back. That's all they had. And these are so-called black men. You see the braids, you see the dominant so-called black man features. You devils, you can't get out of this. So when you go into the description, and there's many others I can go to, I'm just focusing on Lamentations 4 and 8. Right? So it's giving you a physical visage appearance of the Israelites. Matter of fact, I'm going to go here. The house of Judah. So let me let this load up. So right here, Lamentations 4 and 8. I went to it like this because when I try to go to it on the internet, you know, it bugs out. So Lamentations 4 and 8, the NIV. Salaki, the NLT, the second one. It says, but now their faces are blacker than soot. You hear that? Faces, visage. You go to the Brand Standard Bible, the fourth one down, but now their appearance. So these was dark-skinned people. They weren't these people here that you see in modern-day artwork. But remember, this is psychological warfare. This is modern-day witchcraft. By them showing you the Israelites to be so-called white people. And I just showed you unrefutable proof why this is a demon in you people mind, and how the true Israelites look and how they will look today. Will be those descendants. All right, hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachat, Kodash.